In the winter of 2016, a hunter in the Swiss canton of Graubünden raised his rifle at what he was certain was a fox. But the animal was the wrong size. Too big for a fox, too small for a wolf, with a narrow muzzle, a short black-tipped tail, and a coat somewhere between gray and gold. When scientists examined the body, they realized what he had actually shot. It was a golden jackal, a species that, on paper, had no business standing on a snowy Alpine hillside, hundreds of kilometers from anywhere it was known to live. And here is the strange part. Nobody put it there. No zoo, escape, no secret release, no reintroduction program. This animal had walked to Switzerland entirely on its own. And it was very far from being the only one. To understand why that sighting mattered, you need to know what a golden jackal actually is. Picture an animal that looks like something caught between a fox and a wolf. It stands about knee height, roughly 50 centimeters at the shoulder, and weighs somewhere between 10 and 15 kilograms. That makes it bigger than a red fox, but far smaller than a gray wolf. It has a golden brown coat, upright ears, and a narrow, fox-like face, which is exactly why people across Europe keep getting it wrong. In Switzerland, hunters mistook it for a fox. In parts of Italy and Slovenia, locals reported it as a small wolf. Elsewhere, it simply gets logged as somebody's stray dog. For an animal spreading this fast, being hard to recognize turns out to be a real advantage. You are also far more likely to hear one than to see it. Golden jackals announce themselves with an eerie, rising chorus of howls and yips, often set off by a passing siren or a church bell. And that sound is how researchers find them. They drive out into the countryside at night, play a recorded jackal call into the dark, and wait to hear a pack answer back. Now, the golden jackal is not new to Europe. It has lived along the coasts of Greece and the Balkans for roughly 8,000 years, arriving not long after the last ice age. And for most of that time, we did not even have it straight in our own heads what this animal was. For 2 centuries, the jackals of Africa and the jackals of Europe were treated as one and the same species. Then, in 2015, a genetic study pulled them apart. The African animals turned out to be something else entirely, more closely related to wolves, and they were given a new name: the African wolf. The true golden jackal, the one now on the move, is a Eurasian animal that we are only just getting to know properly. For thousands of years, it stayed put, tucked into a warm strip of the southeast near the Mediterranean and the Black Sea. Then sometime in the middle of the 20th century, it started to move. And when it moved fast. In the 1950s, jackals reached the Alps. Poisoning campaigns aimed at other predators knocked them back through the 60s and 70s. But by the 80s and 90s, the expansion had become an explosion. Today, golden jackals have been recorded in 33 European countries, and they are breeding in around 20 of them. Germany logged its first jackal in 1997. Poland confirmed one in 2015 from an animal found dead on a road. The Netherlands caught one on a camera trap in 2016. France the year after. And it did not stop in the mild middle of the continent. In 2020, a camera in the Norwegian Arctic, beyond the Arctic Circle, photographed a golden jackal standing in the snow. Single animals have now turned up as far west as Spain. The numbers behind all of this are hard to believe. In the 1990s, biologists counted golden jackals in Europe in the tens of thousands. By the middle of the 2010s, the estimate had passed 100,000. The most recent figure, published in 2026, puts it at more than 150,000 animals. To put that in perspective, golden jackals now vastly outnumber Europe's wolves, which sit at around 17,000. Bulgaria alone went from a few thousand jackals to tens of thousands in a matter of decades. But the single most repeated claim about this expansion is also the one to be most careful with. You will read that a golden jackal traveled 1,600 kilometers to reach new ground. That number is real, but it does not mean what it sounds like. When a jackal appeared in Spain, scientists analyzed its DNA and estimated that it had come from a population roughly 1,650 kilometers away in Central Europe. That is a calculated point of origin, not a journey that anyone actually followed. The farthest a jackal has ever been tracked with a GPS collar is closer to 180 kilometers. One young female in Hungary was followed as she crossed 2 motorways and covered more than 200 kilometers of ground before she settled down and found a mate. So the reality is arguably stranger than the myth. This is not one record-breaking traveler. This is an entire species leaking outward in every direction at once. Which raises the obvious question, why now? An animal sits quietly in one corner of a continent for 8,000 years, and then, within a single human lifetime, it spreads across almost all of it. Something had to change, and the answer has less to do with the jackal than with a much larger predator that used to rule these landscapes. For centuries, Europe was wolf country. Gray wolves ranged across nearly the whole continent, and where wolves live, golden jackals generally do not. The two are relatives, but they are not friends. Wolves are bigger, they hunt in packs, and they will kill a jackal that wanders into their territory. Researchers have watched it happen. Jackals killed by wolves. Whole local jackal groups that vanished within a year of a wolf pack moving in. Given the choice, a jackal avoids a wolf the way any smaller predator avoids a bigger one, by staying well out of its way. So for as long as wolves dominated Europe, they kept the jackal boxed into the southeast. And then people spent several hundred years methodically wiping the wolf out. By the 20th century, wolves had been shot, trapped, and poisoned down to a few scattered survivors in the mountains. And when the wolf disappeared, it left a door standing wide open. Ecologists have a name for what happened next. They call it mesopredator release. Take away the top predator, and the medium-sized predator just beneath it is suddenly free to multiply and spread. The golden jackal is close to a textbook example. Work led by the biologist Miha Krofel showed that across Europe, jackal and wolf numbers move in opposite directions. In Bulgaria, as wolves were reduced to remnants, the number of jackals hunted each year climbed from around 40 in the 1940s to nearly 30,000 today. Where the wolf fell, the jackal rose to take its place. But wolves are only half the story because people did not simply remove a predator. We also laid out a feast. Modern Europe is blanketed in farmland and livestock, and with them come carcasses, waste, and scraps. The golden jackal is an omnivore that will eat almost anything, and across much of its range, the remains of animals left behind by humans are its single biggest source of food. Then add the weather. Jackals struggle in deep, lasting snow, and they mostly avoid places where snow sits on the ground for more than about 100 days a year. As the climate warms and that snow line retreats, more and more of the map quietly opens up to them. Now here is the twist, and it is the part that makes this story genuinely unfinished. The wolf is coming back. All across Europe, gray wolves are recovering and returning to old ground. And if wolves are what held the jackals back in the first place, you would expect their return to force the jackals into retreat. In 2026, a team led by the ecologist Nathan Rance tested exactly that, using howling surveys from around 9,000 sites across 13 countries. What they found is subtle. The wolf is still the single biggest break on the jackal's spread, but we have quietly changed the rules of the contest. Close to towns, farms, and people, jackals find a kind of refuge because wolves tend to avoid us. Our presence acts as a human shield, letting jackals survive in places a wolf would normally drive them out of. The model predicts that returning wolves could shrink the jackal's suitable range by up to 18%. But that same human shield, together with a warming climate, means the jackal keeps spreading regardless. In fact, the study estimates that as much as 75% of the entire continent could one day suit them. That is nearly 6 times the ground they hold today. If you are finding this as fascinating as I am, take a second to subscribe, because this channel digs into exactly these kinds of quiet, overlooked shifts in the natural world. Now let's talk about what happens when this animal turns up in your own backyard. Because a predator spreading across a crowded continent does not stay unnoticed for long. On a rocky hillside in southwestern Slovenia, a sheep farmer named Leon Frenetic will tell you exactly how he feels about his new neighbors. He had already learned to live with wolves. His flock he could protect. But once jackals arrived, he lost 20 to 25 sheep in a single year. To him, the jackal was simply one predator too many. Stories like his are why the golden jackal has become such a headache for the people who manage Europe's wildlife. And this is where the animal's strangest quirk comes in. Because it walked into these countries on its own, rather than being carried in by people, the golden jackal is not classed as an invasive alien species. In the eyes of the law, it is a native animal expanding its natural range, and in the European Union that status comes with real protection. The result is a patchwork that borders on absurd. In Germany, Italy, and Poland, the jackal is protected. In Bulgaria, Hungary, and Romania, it is hunted by the tens of thousands. When jackals first reached Estonia, officials briefly declared them an alien pest and let anyone shoot them, before the science forced a reversal and they were reclassified as a protected part of the native wildlife. And these are not just passing wanderers anymore. In 2021, cameras and DNA confirmed that golden jackals had bred in Germany for the first time, raising a family of at least 5. The scouts had become settlers. But the reputation as a livestock killer only tells half the story. Look closely at what the golden jackal actually eats, and a very different picture appears. Most of its diet is small rodents, insects, fruit, and carrion. Attacks on live sheep do happen, but they are the exception rather than the rule, and much of the livestock in its diet is scavenged from animals that were already dead. In fact, the jackal may quietly be doing us a favor. In Serbia, researchers estimated that jackals clear away thousands of tons of animal carcasses and tens of millions of crop-eating rodents every single year. That is a cleanup service worth taking seriously. There is a real concern that travels with them, though. As they spread, golden jackals can carry parasites, including a dangerous tapeworm that can infect people, and their long-distance wandering could help carry it into places it has never been. So the golden jackal arrives as neither the villain nor the hero of the story. It is something more interesting than that. A remarkably adaptable animal, moving into a space we accidentally cleared for it, and quietly forcing a whole continent to decide how it wants to share the land. Which brings us back to that hunter in the snow, and the question underneath all of this: where does it stop? For now, there are a few hard limits. Golden jackals cannot swim across the sea, so without a helping hand from people, Britain and Ireland stay out of reach. But almost everywhere else on the mainland, the door is open. France, according to the latest research, may turn out to be one of the most suitable countries of all. The scientists who study these animals are careful not to promise too much, because the honest answer is that nobody truly knows. As Nathan Rank put it, the spread of the jackal is a reminder of the fundamental uncertainty in ecological systems. 8,000 years of sitting still, And then, the moment we reshaped the landscape, a small golden predator began quietly taking a continent back. And it is still walking. The only real question left is how far it gets before the rest of us even notice.